Here we go. Jake and Josh are here to analyze the game they love for the team they love. This is another Dolphins podcast. Here's your host, Jake Mendel and Josh Houtz.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of another Dolphins podcast. The bye week is over and we are on to the Las Vegas Raiders. And I gotta say, if any team could skip class and master the test, I think it must be the Miami Dolphins. So I got to bring in Joshua Houtz here. Man, talk about a fun football weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for you to say you destroyed me in fantasy football. I mean, don't you want to get that out of the way too? I know you were hyped about that matchup. You absolutely annihilated me in fantasy football. But besides that, yes, this was the perfect bye week. If you're a Miami Dolphins fan, I mean, I know we're, putting the cart before the horse before the carriage, I guess. Is that the saying? You know what I mean? But I think we're all getting overly excited. Yeah, we're overly excited with the position we're in. But I mean, right now, man, 1.5 games ahead of the Buffalo Bills. And they were so cocky going into this one, talking about how they were going to beat the Denver Broncos. Everyone's talking about how the Dolphins have a cupcake schedule. And this was the team the Dolphins put 70 points on that just defeated the Buffalo Bills. So it definitely feels good to be a Dolphins fan right now.
I got to ask you this, Josh. To set the tone, I haven't talked to you for a while, and I love talking ball with you. I'm very happy to be back here talking ball with you. So, would you rather be the Buffalo Bills and lose on having 12 men on the field for a missed field goal, just for them to get another opportunity and nail the field goal, or would you rather be first place in fantasy and then lose 157 to 85 to also relinquish first place in said fantasy league? Which fate do you think is worse?
Damn, that's rough. I think the way they lost it, right? They missed the field goal. You got so excited, and then there was 12 guys on the field, and they ended up losing then. So I think that might be worse. But yeah, I see what you're saying, Jake.
So, yeah, we'll have to figure something out, Joshua. You're going to have to load up some Rocket League. I wonder if we can try to do a little call to action on Twitter. Maybe we can get some people to join us, and we'll just do some chaos, get 8 people in there, even some sort of round robin type thing. That way, I mean, me and you playing, I don't like solos. The Rocket League, it's a team sport, and you need a team to play together. So we'll cook up something where I think we could have some fun with that in the future.
Can we just team up and go against other people, or can't you do that? Isn't it that easy?
Yeah, we could do that. We can say, if we were still the Finsider, we could just do face the Finsider. But yeah, what we'll do is we'll pick a night where we both log on to Rocket League, and if anyone wants to play us, they could play us, and we'll just kind of do that. Does that work?
Done. Make it happen.
Love it. But man, Joshua, the Dolphins did not play this week, but talk about an excellent weekend of football. The AFC East had every standalone game Monday. It started with the Patriots benching Mac Jones in a 10-6 loss to Gardner Minshew and the Colts in Germany. And then we ended Sunday with a glorious Raiders 16-12 win over the New York Jets, where Zach Wilson threw for a whopping 263 yards and an interception. And then, Josh, we just mentioned it, that Denver Broncos versus the Buffalo Bills game. The Bills fall to 5-5 with a cupcake loss to the Denver Broncos, 24-22 at home in prime time. Talk about a weekend, man. The Chargers lost by 3 to the Lions. The Bengals lost to the Texans. CJ Stroud looks absolutely awesome. I'm getting super ahead of myself, man. Let's talk about the AFC East and what happened this week. Where would you like to begin?
I think what's crazy is just thinking about how mighty the AFC East has fallen, right? I mean, coming into the season, we were thinking that this was going to be one of the most competitive divisions, and not to say it's not, because it still is, but oh my God, man, the Buffalo Bills do not look themselves. You mentioned the New England Patriots fell flat on their face, and we're kind of expecting the Jets to continue that plummet. So to me, it has to be last night. I'm going to be honest. I didn't watch the game. I fell asleep because I have 3 kids. So I didn't make it through that one. But when I woke up and saw that it was 24-22, I got so excited. And this morning I even went and wrote a quick article showing some of the reactions, because my favorite thing had to be Kyle Brandt, who, he's kind of a closet Buffalo Bills fan, but he talks a lot of crap to the Miami Dolphins, their fan base. We all saw the rant he went on when the Dolphins lost. You're not who you say you are. And I don't think Dolphins ever really pumped themselves up. Yeah, but he looks so defeated, man. You can just see it in his face, how elated he was when that kick went through. And then you just see Peyton and even Eli's like, oh, what, 12 men on the field. Why would you do that? And then he just comes out and nails it. So fitting loss for the Buffalo Bills, and I just don't know where they go from here because I don't think their schedule gets any easier, right, Jake? I think I wrote it down on the Finsider.
They have the hardest,
the Dolphins,
I think.
Yeah. They played the Jets, which the Jets, those are division games that are pretty back and forth. Then the Eagles, then they have a bye. Then the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Chargers, the Patriots, and then the end of season against the Dolphins. So, man, the Bills are 5-5, and I don't think any of their fans or Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, any of them really thought they'd be in that situation right now. I mean, they just fired Ken Dorsey. I mean, it's like you mentioned, man, the perfect bye week if you're a Dolphins fan.
Maybe the Bills should have used motion to get that 12th player off the field. That is just so crazy that a special teams play. And I don't know if you saw this, man, but Josh Allen, it's so funny that every year since 2018, he has led the league in interceptions. He has been there. He goes through stretches. I cannot figure out Josh Allen because I think he's a freak of nature. He's an excellent quarterback, but man, it's like he goes Tua to the 10th degree in terms of like the occasional just throw to the linebacker's gut. It just seems like Josh Allen is doing that on purpose 2 to 3 times a game. And it's just very weird to see the situation they're in. What'd you think of them firing Ken Dorsey? Because a lot of the analytical community came out and said, the Bills are first in like EPA per play and all these different stats that kind of showed like, hey, these guys aren't converting on the field. There are some miscues, specifically Josh Allen, but the offense is doing what it's supposed to. It shouldn't necessarily fall on his lap.
No, not at all. And I do laugh at some of those things, expected points or expected yards. It's like it didn't happen. It doesn't matter that was expected. But for me, I think it's just a scapegoat, right? This is probably Sean McDermott. I mean, he's one of the better head coaches in football, one of the better defensive. Yeah, but
just knee-jerk. Just was like, I got to do something.
Knee-jerk had to do something, and you wonder if his job is in jeopardy. I mean, at some point you have to realize that was your window. And if, you feel like you've almost passed that. I mean, we all see Stephon Diggs' brother out there, right? On Twitter, he's just saying how, I guess Josh Allen wasn't anything until Stephon came to town. So it's just crazy that's all imploding. But again, it's just the perfect result when you're the Dolphins, kind of having that sour taste in your mouth for 2 weeks, losing to the Chiefs. I mean, it's not that bad, right? It can always be worse. And we're seeing that with our stepbrothers in the AFC East.
So the Dolphins play 5 of their final 8 games at home. They're already 4-0 at home. They're the only team that is undefeated at home so far this year. So there is a lot to like about the second half of the season. But could you imagine that, man? Everything's going wrong. And then you got these outside distractions like brothers and family getting involved where it's not going to make things better. Like this is something you need to handle in-house and you got to figure out. I mean, whenever the Dolphins struggled, whenever the Dolphins hit rocks, hit these bumpy spots, Tyreek Hill has never done anything like this. He's stood by his guys, and I think that's so important. And when you're a team like Buffalo, right, I don't think you can really go through a list of how many teams fire their offensive coordinator and decide, all right, let's go win a Super Bowl. But in a situation where you really need to come together with one of the harder schedules left, that stuff cannot be happening. Like even if after this year, you want to trade Stephon Diggs, you want to, have a complete makeover and even like wipe out the entire coaching staff. Who knows? You still have a shot this year. Like, I don't think anyone would be surprised if the Bills somehow like overcame the hardest schedule in the NFL and made the playoffs and then won a game or two. Nobody would be surprised by that at all. But I mean, these outside factors just piling on just seem to hurt and hurt and hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's football. That's the same way I felt coming into this. I mean, it's fun to see Dolphins Twitter taking a victory lap, everybody talking crap, but this just proves how the NFL, with the drop of a hat, it can be so different. I mean, Ken Dorsey a couple months ago was probably a finalist or, a front runner for some head coaching gigs. And now you're hearing he's, packing his bags. I saw a meme where they were saying he looks like Peter Parker basically before he got bit by the spider. And I was just dying thinking about that picture. But again, it could not happen to a better fan base. And we remember when we were at this point. So it just shows you how quickly the league can change and enjoy, where we're sitting right now. Because again, 6-3 coming out of a bye. We got I got it written down here. The Raiders. Then we're at home, like you mentioned. Jets away at the Commanders. We have the Titans, the Jets, Cowboys, Ravens, Bills. I mean, they have some home games that they can win. I think 5 of the last 7 are home games. I had it all butchered on the site, so hopefully no one was relying on that. But yeah, man, the Dolphins are in prime position right now and cannot be more excited for the Buffalo Bills to be imploding.
From one team that has negative distractions off the field, Josh, I want to get your thoughts about a distraction who I think is actually being carrot on a stick for a certain team, and that's Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. If you told me 2 weeks ago that the Jets would kind of be figuring things out, I wouldn't be able to believe it. And honestly, when they won 3 games in a row, the Broncos, Eagles, and Giants, I was getting a little concerned. Is this defense that great where they can win with someone like Zach Wilson? And then they scored 6 points against the Chargers and 12 points against the Raiders. And I completely threw that thought process out the window. But Josh, Aaron Rodgers supposedly tore his Achilles on like the second play of the season. It really, like, people are saying like he'll be back in December. He's saying he'll be back in December. It just sounds so unrealistic that, one, I think the most realistic conspiracy theory that's ever come near Aaron Rodgers' camp is that maybe he had a different injury and they're just keeping and saying Achilles. But if it is the Achilles, which I kind of assume it is, I think Aaron Rodgers is being like that carrot on a stick for this team, just saying, hey guys, I'm coming, just because like otherwise like the morale would plummet so low, where I think if you're Rodgers and you still need to be a leader, you're getting paid so much money, you come to this new franchise where you want to be seen as the guy. I wonder if, Rodgers, if it is the Achilles, I don't think he's going to be back. And I kind of see them just kind of relying on hope to get through the season.
Yeah, carrot on the stick. That's the perfect way to put it. I just can't get that image out of my head now. That's exactly what they're doing. I don't think he's going to come back at all, right? He does the holistic stuff. I think he does like this modern stuff, his own way of going about rehab, but there's no way he's going to be back from that Achilles. So it might just be giving them hope. But, I sit here and I want to say that we shouldn't really worry about the Jets, but you mentioned it, man. At one point you thought their defense might be enough to overcome some of those difficulties on the offensive side of the football. So we know it's going to be a tough matchup, right? The first Black Friday game there at Meadowlands. I mean, I'm saying that and I don't know that I feel that way, but these division games go either way, and they do have a very good defense. Robert Saleh is very familiar with Mike McDaniel, but I mean, they're pretty close to having that final nail put in their coffin. And you can say the same thing about the Patriots. I mean, who would have thought Mac Jones and, they brought in Bill O'Brien. You thought the offense might be a little bit better. They signed Mike Gesicki. I mean, you kind of feel bad for him, right? He's not getting the gritty at all there in New England. So they're absolutely, yeah. So I feel so bad. They're at rock bottom. And it just, again, this is the Dolphins' chance, man. I just can't, we can sit here and talk about what the rest of the division has not been able to do. But right now, man, it's time for the Dolphins to do what they have to do and what they haven't been able to do for so many years. So prime position. I'm getting really excited and a little bit ahead of myself for sure.
Did you see the Patriots master the fake spike? I think that was the best part. Bailey Zappi tried a fake spike at the end of the game and just hucked it right at a Colts defender. It was the coolest play of all time. And Josh, going back to last year in that Raiders game the Patriots had where who was it? I think it was Jacoby Myers gunned the ball and Chandler Jones ended up bringing it the other way for a touchdown. I cannot believe how far the Patriots have fallen and how just in disarray their entire team seems to be. So that, man, has been an absolute blast to watch. And I'm enjoying every second of it. Every second of pouty Mac Jones face. Every second of the fact that this team wants to trot out a quarterback that they cut. And 31 other teams said, nah, we don't want to sign him on waivers just so they could re-sign him. I'm telling you right now, if Bailey Zappi, if his name was like Tyler Thigpen, he wouldn't be in the league right now. There is absolutely no way. So I'm really interested to see how that team kind of moves forward. But man, what a week to be a Dolphins fan. Mastered the test. You didn't go to class. Any final thoughts here on the week? I mean, you lost. You're in shambles. I get that. But I mean, overall, you got to be feeling kind of good.
Yeah, I'm 6-4, so in fantasy it could be worse. But for a bye week, again, I mean, I felt coming into it, I was all pessimistic, head down, no moral victories. But I feel like you came out of this bye week looking pretty good, and hopefully they're healthy and they're ready to go. So no further comment other than finish this thing off, Miami. Do what you got to do, Mike McDaniel. Do what you got to do to Tyreek Hill and win the AFC East and make some noise in the playoffs because it's been way too long.
The Miami Dolphins did make a little noise before going away on the week, and they opened the window for Devon Achane to return to the lineup. He was placed on IR 4 weeks ago. Josh, I think the vibe kind of was that the injury maybe lasts 4 weeks, maybe not, but you put him on IR, he gets the extra bye week to load up. Is this something, I know we're not doctors. I know you drink a lot of Dr. Pepper, though. It doesn't count. But does it feel like this weekend against the Raiders we'll see Achane back in the lineup?
I mean, I think if history tells us anything, it's probably that they're going to slowly incorporate him. But when you remember how well he played, I think I ran down here, 10th in yards with 460. This was on November 4th, so this isn't accounting for that last week, but he was 10th in yards, 8th in touchdowns, tied for first in 20-plus yard plays, first in 40-yard plays, and first in yards per carry. So, I mean, you know how explosive he is when he has that football in his hand. You know how different this offense looked with him out there. So, as much as they're probably going to try to hesitate and put him out in that lineup, and again, you're going against the Raiders, so maybe it will be okay to give him, ease him into it this week and get him ready to go for the following week. But Devon Achane changes that offense, so they might have him out there pretty quick.
The Raiders feature the 31st ranked run defense, and man, you hit the nail on the head. I do think they're going to really ease him back in, where you have that final stretch to the end of the season, right? Where you have, Baltimore, you have Buffalo. I think they're going to try to hold on to Devon Achane as long as possible. I know it's so hard not to get excited. I mean, you look back to the Kansas City Chiefs game. I think Kat and I spoke about this a little bit, but there was, they did the no-look pass play to Tyreek that Achane scored on against Denver, when Denver wasn't a good team. Now they are a good team. Salvon Ahmed had a reception on that same play and open field all in front of him, but he could not break that one arm tackle, where you do wonder, can Achane really jiggle out of something like that? It's kind of fun to look at these stats still, man, because he ranks 25th in rushing yards with 460. That's 22 less than Ramondre Stevenson, who has played 10 games. Devon Achane, he's played 4 games so far. Alexander Madison, 461 rushing yards through 10 games. Devon Achane, 460. There is going to be so much excitement going into the return of Achane and what this offense can look like. But if I'm thinking big picture and I'm thinking process here, and the fact that the Dolphins are slowly, finally becoming a healthy football team, I have to wonder if, like you said, they are going to take as much time as possible with Achane. We saw something very strange last week, or 2 weeks ago, where Jeff Wilson Jr. even had 4 targets. So I think they're very comfortable having their running backs do a bunch of different things and really can, switch them in and out of the lineup. And despite the struggles, I think that Mike McDaniel really likes Salvon Ahmed and what he brings to this team. So I could see maybe just every week he loses 2 targets or 10% of his snaps. And over time, we see Achane become that guy. But overall, man, if I'm playing in DFS this weekend or anything like that, I think Raheem Mostert's the guy you want to play in something like fantasy.
Yeah, and I want us to get credit for the Raheem Mostert train, right? I mean, we had countless fantasy guys sitting there talking about him. I'm going to say it, at least every quarter of the season. I mean, there were fantasy guys that had Jeff Wilson ranked ahead of him, and we said that he was going to be that guy. So we'll see. It's just, it'll be nice to have that run game back. I mean, no, the offensive line isn't fully healthy yet, so you got to factor that in this a little bit, right? I mean, we're not going to be out there rushing for 200-plus yards right out the gate, but I mean, Devon Achane is definitely a difference maker. So I think River Craycraft's another guy that's probably going to be coming out soon, right? Isn't his window starting to open up? So Dolphins are getting some reinforcement at the perfect time.
I think it's Robert Hunt and Robert Jones. I actually didn't know this about Hunt, but I didn't see the report originally that they kind of, I don't want to say guaranteed, but they're like, yeah, it's still weeks for him. So that was a little concerning. But the fact he wasn't placed on IR kind of gives you optimism that hopefully when the Dolphins have to play 3 of 4 games on the road, their last little road stretch there to end the year, that hopefully Hunt's back for that. Again, I mean, Tennessee, the Commanders, these are the hardest games, but I think you'd be more comfortable having those guys back in the starting lineup. But yeah, man, seeing this running game in full effect is going to be so great, because I think there are going to be these games like the Raiders where the running game can really do a lot of the heavy lifting, and you don't have to, empty the clip, throwing it to Tyreek Hill 15 times a game. And you can still try to figure some things out, because you mentioned it, Craycraft's coming back. Jeff Wilson had Cedric Wilson even had 5 targets last week. The one he caught was the touchdown. Braxton Berrios was dealing with an injury. You expect him to see some more targets. So, I mean, this offense still has a few things to figure out here, and I think there's still a little bit of a ceiling for them to reach.
Yeah, I think that's what's scary, but also, what we want to see now at this point, right? We want to know what the ceiling is. We saw him kind of lay an egg last week, so I'm intrigued to see the way they come out of this thing firing. But you're right, man. They don't have all the pieces, and I do think you mentioned Robert Hunt. We have to discuss him. He's arguably the best offensive lineman we have, right? I mean, the more I think about it, that dude needs a new contract. He's at the top of the list, pay the man for Christian Wilkins, but you got to say the same stuff about Robert Hunt. So happy that some of these pieces are going to be coming back. You mentioned him not going on IR. That could mean that he's coming back within 4 weeks when we do make that playoff push. But we'll see, man. Dolphins got to figure some things out, but they're getting healthy at the right time to make this push again in first place with everything else going on in the AFC East.
Not a huge noteworthy thing, but we're talking about the Dolphins did sign Anthony Schwartz to the practice squad, former Cleveland Browns wide receiver. I think he was a 3rd-round pick. And Josh, I mean, if there's one word, it's just fast. Dude's fast.
Yeah, fast. I think he was like 100-meter or something in high school. Had the record or
4.25, I think I saw it was.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he ran a 4.27 then at the combine. So I had a Browns fan in my mentions, and I jokingly said that it sounds like Jakeem Grant, and he said actually he's worse than Jakeem Grant. He has worse hands than Jakeem Grant. So take that for what it's worth. I then found like a video of him on like a 76-yard or 46-yard end around where you can see some of his speed. So we'll see what the Dolphins do there. I hope it doesn't mean that Jalen Waddle's out for an extended period of time. I hope it doesn't mean that Braxton Berrios is out long, because I don't want to have to rely on Anthony Schwartz. But the fact that he's a practice squad guy, I'm a little bit intrigued at what, Mike McDaniel could do with him. I really, we said it so many months ago that Mike McDaniel has his own Madden Ultimate team. And it just, every time he signs someone with the speed and just the way they run this offense, it always seems like a Madden Ultimate team, and just he's cheesing the hell out of everybody. So we'll see where Anthony Schwartz goes, but don't expect too much out of him. But that's coming from the guy that hypes up every practice squad wide receiver known to man.
Do you think this is Jalen Waddle related? Do you think deep down this has anything to do with that?
No, I mean, I hope not. I mean, maybe Braxton Berrios, but I hope not there either. Maybe they're just kicking the can on someone else. Maybe someone else is going to get cut. I mean, I don't know.
Who's a receiver they haven't been able to replace yet?
What's that?
He played 3 games. They had one receiver. He played 3 games. He had a very unique skill set. Then he went on the physically unable to the in-season injury list with a neck injury.
Stop beating around the bush. Let's hear it.
Eric Ezukama.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that'd be nice. I don't know. That's a mystery. That injury is a mystery. We were talking about Devon Achane. I don't even know that they really still got official word on what that was, right? I don't know, man.
Yeah, we never really heard about Ezukama. It was a neck injury stemming back to college, I think it was. But one thing he did really well early on, and I think what was so exciting, is he was running the football. He was lining up in the backfield. And you mentioned Schwartz maybe struggling to catch the ball at times. I mean, dude, there was some brutal. I loved Jakeem Grant so much. That high five with Albert Wilson is in my heart forever. But man, there were some brutal drops there. So I wonder, hey, this guy might not be able to catch the football, but let's get him going on a couple jet sweeps. I think he averaged like 10 yards per carry. Again, he's a receiver, so these were all kind of trick plays. I think he has 1 touchdown, but I mean, that's where I kind of see it. I don't necessarily think you're kind of connecting like Jalen Waddle, like can get 10 targets a game, 1,000-yard receiver, can line up all over the field. I don't think like Jalen Waddle can really correlate with something like Anthony Schwartz. I don't know how if you're going from like that Waddle to Schwartz and thinking that's the process, the Dolphins might be too.
Yeah, we'd be screwed if that was the process for sure. And I hope there's nothing wrong with Waddle, right? I mean, he should be fully healthy. I know Mike McDaniel talked about that. Yeah, I traded him from in fantasy this year too, so blame me, I guess.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough, man. That pretty much sums it up. I think Jalen Waddle is getting healthier. We'll be back tomorrow with Merrick to talk about some superlatives for the first half, or actually the second half of the season, and we'll dive into the injury updates we see then. But until then, let's just hope everyone stays healthy. I think it's that simple. Josh, before we wrap up here, it has been announced that every Tuesday, beginning next week until January, early January at the very earliest, will feature an inside look at the Miami Dolphins and Hard Knocks in season. Joshua, what says you about this?
It's funny because, before when you see these other teams getting this treatment, you think, okay, I think I've even tweeted it out. I'd pay extra money for this kind of backstage access. But with the situation the Dolphins are in, 6-3 at the top of the AFC East, I feel a little bit queasy about it. But at the same time, I'm excited to see that stuff that we wouldn't really get to see as being fans in the Northeast. So I'm a little bit, torn between it, but it's going to happen one way or the other. So I think it's 1 week from today. We're recording this right now, November 14th. So November 21st will be the first episode. And that'll be That'll be the Raiders game, correct?
Yeah, it'll be right after the Raiders game, getting you ready for Black Friday against the Jets. So that'd be exciting. Do you think this could legitimately become a distraction for the team? There's been 2 previous teams that have been on this. The Cardinals last year, who were already a complete dumpster fire, so that was kind of what it is. And the Colts, I believe that was the year Phillip Rivers was their quarterback, and they had the shot to make the playoffs the final week of the season, and absolutely got stunned by like the lowly Jags or something like that. I should look that up beforehand, but um, I think the Dolphins right now are a better team than either of them were. I don't really think that's up for debate, but I can't really see, like, thinking back, like, man, Hard Knocks really shined a light on how ugly the Cardinals were. I think we just kind of knew that the Cardinals were a dumpster fire.
Yeah, and I think with today, we see all the different camera angles they have after games with Mike McDaniel talking about a little, breaking huddle. We see all the different angles they have during these games. So I don't know how many different cameras are really going to be there that's really going to cause that big of a distraction. So it's probably nothing. I mean, to these players, it's probably a normal day at the office. But again, for us fans, we're going to be able to see things that we never even imagined we could. So it's interesting, especially with it coming at arguably the best season we've had in 20 years. And I know you're talking about doing a weekly recap, which is something that'll be awesome. We can even come on here and do a weekly recap of each episode. So yeah, it'll be awesome time to be a Dolphins fan and to see that backstage stuff. And praise God, it doesn't all fall apart, right? I mean, you mentioned those other teams; they were not on the same stats as the Dolphins, but that's the last thing we need is the entire world watching on HBO Max. Is that best season in 20 plus years just comes crumbling down.
Mike McDaniel kind of feels like someone where I think he'd embarrass himself in front of the entire class. And I'm using class just to kind of take the pressure off. I think we're going to see a lot here in terms of just how great of a people person Mike McDaniel is. It's so funny watching the preview video for it because they got this hype music and it will show like players celebrating. It'll show Christian Wilkins yelling, and then it'll be like, it'll show Mike McDaniel has been like, yeah, X Factor with all the hype and everything going, where it just doesn't fit the tone whatsoever, but it's just who Mike McDaniel is. So I think that's going to be a really fun and interesting perspective of just seeing, another opportunity to see Mike McDaniel. I know some people are starting to say he's a little corny, but I mean, it's just kind of the person he is. His, quotes are horribly, horribly awful to read in terms of a transcript, because he's someone who likes to ramble, but that's kind of what a show like this needs, someone to take the spotlight away. But, keep in mind, Tyreek Hill has a podcast. Jalen Ramsey, we saw the return video he did. You don't even know how many places he had cameras for something like that. So, Josh, I did read some comments on the Finsider because I wrote a story about the announcement, and there were some people riled up that this is a distraction. The team doesn't, they don't deserve this and all this other kind of stuff. And all I can think is, I think the fly on the ceiling is much smaller than those people think, especially considering that phones and these kids and their phones, they have them all the time.
I mean, we do, right? I mean, you look around and you're just like, damn, dude, we always have our phones. Like
Yep.
And most time we're just scrolling Twitter, just waiting for something to happen with the Dolphins, like whether it's news or I don't know, it's a sick thing, but yeah, I can understand them shaking their hand, but it is what it is. Again, it's going to happen whether we like it or not. And what better season for them to pick us? I mean, it says something about them picking the Dolphins, right? At what state we're at right now, the different type of players we have, the coach we have. It'll be interesting to see the way that backstage look, how it does impact things, and what the Dolphins do these last few weeks of the season, because they haven't had a more important stretch of games in, again, 20 plus years.
I'm going to walk through the schedule real quick, Josh. I want you to tell me which game you'd be the most excited to watch Hard Knocks on after if they were to win this game. So you got Vegas, Jets, Commandos, Titans, Jets, Dallas, Baltimore, and the counterfeit Bills. Which one do you think you'd be most excited to see on Hard Knocks, the Tuesday recap?
Probably the Ravens, but or the Bills. Probably the Bills, right? I mean,
Bills week 18
but at this point,
home,
those games might not even matter. So now I'm fighting internally. I'm gonna say the Bills. We'll go with the Bills because you call them the counterfeit Bills, but they're still the AFC East. They still wear the crown, and we gotta prove we can beat them. But wouldn't it be something if we didn't even have to beat them and we're just like chilling at the end of the season?
Dude, I have a sick theory in my head that the Dolphins are going to win the next 5 games, and Merrick shared a stat where if the Dolphins win their next 5, and I think I didn't fact check this, so if it's wrong, yell at him. If the Bills
and
lose
Brave
2,
13.
And Brave 13. Yeah, if the Bills lose 2 of those games, it might even be 3. The Dolphins clinch the division. So there's part of me that thinks the Dolphins are going to win 5 straight against the Cupcakes and then lose to Dallas, Baltimore, Buffalo, and enter the postseason with a record of 11-6, and all their losses are to the teams with winning records. I think that's how this season's going to go because we are Dolphin fans and we know better.
Yeah, and then how would you feel? Your confidence would be an all-time low, right? Hold on a second.
So sick.
Yeah, it'd be
You're a division winner.
It'd be at an all-time low, your confidence after that. So, please, God, don't let it end like that.
What a wild ride that would be. I kind of like looking at that Dallas game, right? It's Christmas Eve, 4:00 on Fox at home. I think that'd be a fun opportunity to kind of really reset and think about this Dolphins journey as a whole. CK Parrott, 3 yards per carry. He put out an interesting stat that noted that the only time that the Dolphins have lost in the Mike McDaniel era at home was the Packers game on Christmas, where the Dolphins led at halftime. Tua had that concussion and everything kind of fell apart with 3 interceptions in the second half. I think if you could win a game at home against Dallas on December 24th, the day before, Christmas, I think that would be a fun full circle moment to see, because I think the team would realize that too, where they were this time last year compared to this year. Because I mean, that brutal losing streak they had last year, I think there were so many factors that went into that they couldn't control, that I just think like it'd be such a breath of fresh air. It'd be such a relief to get a big win like that against a NFC opponent.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I wish they were winning our throwbacks, because I'd always remember that one it actually might have been Thanksgiving Day. So we're talking Christmas Eve. It was Thanksgiving Day when they wore those throwbacks with Ricky Williams and Jay Fiedler, Chris Chambers, and things like that. But that'd be an awesome one to see for me. I just want to see him stay healthy, though, for this last stretch, right? We're sitting here talking about how awesome this season has looked, how we might, potentially battle some of these teams in the playoffs. I mean, we hope to God we can stay healthy throughout that final stretch. So, dude, I'm excited to be able to come on here and podcast with you because, again, man, we've been doing this for a long time, and we have not been in a better situation than we are right now.
That is it. That will finish out our Tuesday into Wednesday show. We'll be back tomorrow with Merrick to go through some superlatives of the second half of the season, get an idea of who we think is going to really take off as the Miami Dolphins push for an AFC East crown. Then, Josh, we're still kind of teetering. Our game recap will be out either Friday night, Saturday morning, basically whenever we feel like it. So the best way to know when a show is dropping is to subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your show. Most of our listeners are just that, listeners, but if you would like some visuals and to watch the show, you can log on to the 560 WQAM YouTube channel. Yeah, I said logged on. I'm that old. And there you can see our beautiful faces. That is it. That's all we have for another Dolphins podcast. Go follow Joshua on Twitter at HOUTZ Houtz. Find him on Twitter. Find him on YouTube. Take it to the Houtz. That is all we have. Thank you so much for listening to another Dolphins podcast. Until next time, fins up.
Fins up.